Welcome to Capital Catch-Up, your guide to what is happening on the floor of Congress. I am Victor.
And I am Lainey. Today, we are diving deep into a massive wave of legislative proposals that could fundamentally reshape financial ethics, online trading, national security, and government contracting.
That is right, Lainey, and we have to start with what seems to be a major, coordinated push in both the House and the Senate to regulate or outright ban prediction markets. For our listeners who might not be familiar, prediction markets are platforms where people buy and sell financial contracts based on the outcomes of future events, like elections, policy decisions, or even economic indicators.
Right, and Congress is looking at this from several different angles. First, there is the issue of insider trading and conflicts of interest for lawmakers themselves. House Bill 8838, known as the Congressional Prediction Market Ban Act of 2026, aims to prohibit members of Congress and their household members from participating in these markets. It sets up strict annual compliance certifications and heavy penalties, including fines of at least $10,000 or triple the profit gained.
And that is paired with House Bill 9367, the Stop Lawmakers from Predicting Act. This bill specifically prevents lawmakers, their spouses, and dependent children from profiting off prediction markets tied to government policies or information they get through their official service. A key detail here is that any fines must be paid out of personal funds, not campaign or office accounts.
Which is a huge accountability measure, but the restrictions do not stop with Congress. House Bill 9082, the Honesty and Trust in Service Act, targets Department of Defense personnel. It directs the Secretary of Defense to bar military members and civilian employees from trading on prediction markets if they have access to non-public information relevant to their duties.
It is all about maintaining public trust. And for high-level officials, the proposed restrictions go even further than prediction markets. We are seeing two major bills, House Bill 9560, the No Profiting from Public Service Act, and House Bill 9429, the Public Service Accountability Act. Both of these would force the President, Vice President, members of Congress, and senior executive officials to completely divest from individual stocks, commodities, and derivatives, or place them into qualified blind trusts within 90 days of taking office.
A blind trust basically means an independent trustee manages the investments without the official knowing what is in the portfolio, which prevents them from making policy decisions that benefit their personal wealth. Under House Bill 9560, the penalties are incredibly steep, including a fine equal to 10% of the prohibited investment value and the disgorgement of any profits.
Now, what about everyday Americans who use these platforms? There are several bills aiming to regulate the broader commercial market. Senate Bill 4469, the Prediction Market Act of 2026, gives the Commodity Futures Trading Commission explicit authority to ban contracts that are contrary to the public interest, such as those involving illegal activities, terrorism, war, or violence. It also creates an Office of the Retail Advocate and an Advisory Council on Consumer Protection to monitor risks for everyday retail investors.
And House Bill 9706, the Facial Recognition to Protect Children Act, adds a massive layer of user safety. It would require platform operators to use facial recognition technology to verify that all users are at least 18 years old. It also expands the regulatory reach of both the Federal Trade Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission to block public interest violating contracts.
Meanwhile, House Bill 9856, the Prediction Markets Are Gambling Act, takes a very direct approach. It amends the Commodity Exchange Act to completely ban the listing or trading of event contracts involving sports competitions and casino-style games on registered entities, drawing a clear line between legitimate commodity trading and speculative gambling.
Speaking of gambling, there is a growing concern about the public health impact of all this digital betting. House Bill 8970, the Gambling Disorder Health Study Act, directs the Secretary of Health and Human Services to establish a comprehensive research program. They want to study the psychological and economic impacts of gambling addiction, specifically focusing on how digital platforms, mobile apps, and modern gaming tech are driving this behavior.
Even campaign finances are being shielded. House Bill 8912, the Campaign Funds Integrity Act of 2026, amends the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971 to explicitly stop candidates and political committees from using donor contributions for speculative prediction markets. Instead, they would be restricted to low-risk options like insured deposits and diversified mutual funds.
It is clear that the rise of online betting and prediction platforms has triggered a massive legislative reaction. But let us shift gears to another major policy change being debated. This is the Ending Discrimination in Government Contracting Act, introduced as House Bill 8511 and Senate Bill 4390.
This legislation represents a major shift in federal procurement. Currently, the federal government has set-asides and contracting goals specifically reserved for small businesses owned by women and individuals classified as socially and economically disadvantaged. These bills would eliminate those identity-based preferences entirely.
Exactly. It would amend the Small Business Act and repeal parts of other laws, including the Minority Business Development Act of 2021, the CARES Act, and the American Rescue Plan. Instead, the focus of federal contracting programs would shift entirely toward general small businesses and those owned by service-disabled veterans. The sponsors argue this standardizes the process, but it would certainly change the landscape for many diverse business owners who rely on those programs.
Definitely a critical issue to watch. Now, let us talk about a massive funding bill that recently surfaced, Senate Bill 2, the Secure America Act. This is a massive $70 billion appropriations bill for the Department of Homeland Security, spanning through 2029.
It is split into two main sections. Title I is dedicated to non-immigration border security. It funds advanced surveillance, artificial intelligence technologies to stop drug trafficking, and expands units investigating child exploitation.
And Title II focuses heavily on immigration enforcement. It provides substantial resources for hiring and training personnel for Customs and Border Protection and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as well as enhancing detention, removal operations, and supporting legal proceedings.
While we are on national security, Senate Bill 4615 is the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2027. This bill outlines funding for intelligence agencies, including the Central Intelligence Agency Retirement and Disability System, but it also does a lot of restructuring. It actually repeals several advisory councils and offices to streamline the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and transfers the National Intelligence University to the National Defense University.
It also places a heavy emphasis on modern threats, mandating strict security protocols against foreign cyber threats and Chinese technology, establishing frameworks for integrating artificial intelligence, and boosting intelligence sharing in the Indo-Pacific region and with Israel.
Finally, let us look at the world of sports. Senate Bill 4668, the Protect College Sports Act of 2026, aims to create a national framework for intercollegiate athletics. Specifically, it tackles the complex issue of name, image, and likeness, or NIL, rights for student athletes.
This has been a bit of a Wild West lately. This bill would establish a national agreement database for transparency, set standards for sports agents, and create an Office of the Student Athlete Ombudsman to protect players. It also establishes health, safety, and academic protections while regulating media rights and conference operations.
It is a massive effort to bring uniform rules to college sports, balancing the earning potential of student athletes with the operational needs of universities.
So, what should our listeners watch out for in the coming weeks? Keep a close eye on the debates surrounding prediction markets and congressional stock trading. With so many bills addressing conflicts of interest, we might see some of these proposals gain real momentum.
Also, watch for the reactions from the business community regarding the proposed changes to federal contracting preferences and how college athletic associations respond to the push for national NIL standards.
That is all for today's episode of Capital Catch-Up. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.